renunciation of all those claims to exclusivity or finality that, in winding their roots around the life of the Spirit, have been the single greatest factor in suffocating impulses to unity and in promoting conflict, hatred, and violence. In order to exert its vital influence, recognition of the oneness of humankind must operate at the heart of religious discourse. It is to this truth that the Baha'i community believes the leaders of religion must respond if religion is to have any meaning and ultimately any definitive contribution to make in the global society emerging from the transformative experiences of the 20th century. It is evident that growing numbers of people are coming to realize the truth underlying all religions, the truth that underlying all religions is essentially the oneness of religion. And this recognition arises not through a resolution of theological disputes, but as an intuitive awareness born from an ever-widening experience of others and from a dawning acceptance of the principle of the oneness of the human family itself. Out of the welter of religious doctrines, rituals and legal codes inherited from a long time ago, there is emerging a sense that spiritual life, like the oneness manifest in diverse nationalities, races and creeds and cultures, constitutes one unbounded reality, equally accessible to everyone. In order for this diffuse and still tentative perception to consolidate itself and contribute to the building of a peaceful world, it must have the wholehearted confirmation of those to whom the masses of the Earth's population look to for guidance. Together with the crumbling of barriers separating people, our age is also witnessing the dissolution of the once insuperable barrier that the past assumed would forever separate the life of heaven and the life of earth. The scriptures of all religions have always taught the believer to see in service to others not only a moral duty, but an avenue for the soul's approach to God. Today, the progressive restructuring of society gives this familiar teaching new dimensions of meaning. As the age-old promise of a world animated by the principles of justice and unity slowly takes on the character of a realistic goal, meeting the needs of the soul and of society will increasingly be seen as a reciprocal aspect of mature spiritual life. If religious leadership is to rise to the challenge that this latter perception represents, such response must begin by acknowledging that religion and science are the two indispensable knowledge systems through which the potentialities of consciousness develop. Far from being in conflict with one another, these fundamental modes of the mind's exploration of reality are mutually dependent and have been most productive in those rare but happy periods of history when their complementary nature has been recognized and they have been able to work together. The insights and skills generated by scientific advance will have always to look to the guidance of spiritual and moral commitment to ensure their appropriate application. Religious convictions, no matter how cherished they may be, must, the Baha'i community submits, willingly and gratefully submit to impartial testing by scientific methods. If the human race is to meet the challenge of establishing world peace, the spiritual energy latent in each and every one of us must be released and directed to this noble task. If it is to provide the vision and unleash the spiritual energy necessary to guide humanity to a new world worthy of its destiny, then each religion must focus on the core of positive moral values held in common by all religious traditions, rather than on doctrinal differences or claims of exclusivity. We may each believe our religion is best, but we must respect the spiritual choices of others, even if we think they err. Throughout the planet, people raised in a given religious frame of reference find themselves abruptly thrown into close association with others whose beliefs and practices appear at first glance irreconcilably different from their own. Now, these differences can and unfortunately do give rise to resentment, to defensiveness, and, God forbid, open conflict. However, in many cases, the effect is rather to prompt a reconsideration of received doctrine and to encourage efforts at discovering values held in common. Inevitably, with such approaches comes a questioning of doctrines that inhibit association and understanding. If people whose beliefs appear to be fundamentally different from one's own nevertheless live moral lives that deserve admiration, what is it that makes one's own faith superior to others? So let each religion then demonstrate its capacity to guide the world's inhabitants to peaceful coexistence, moral rectitude and understanding, and devotion to duty, the ideal of service, rather than spreading prejudice, enmity, fear and intolerance, which unfortunately is still the case in parts of the world today. The recent and most welcome trend towards interfaith dialogue around the globe offers a very positive example of how disparate communities can work together to broaden vision and shape public discourse in a unifying way. Apart from the cherished associations that these activities create, Baha'is see in the struggle of diverse religions to draw closer together to the divine will for a human race that is entering on its collective maturity. And the members of the Baha'i community will continue to assist this process in every way it can. Religious leaders are uniquely placed to draw attention to the potentialities and promise of the present moment in human affairs, and challenge all key players in society to action. Among those key players are youth and children, the generations that will succeed ours, the generations who will lead the world, who would guide the world, and be the very emblems of love, of service, and of understanding. And therefore, increased interchange amongst religious leaders and their followers must involve the younger generations. And this will lead, no doubt, to a greater understanding within them and amongst them, and within society itself, of the possibilities now open to human beings all over the world, and how peaceful patterns of collective life can indeed be nurtured. Shut your eyes to estrangement, then fix your gaze upon unity, is Baha'u'llah's counsel. Cleave tenaciously unto that which will lead to the well-being and tranquility of all mankind. This span of earth is but one homeland and one habitation. To build a global commonwealth of love and justice and peace is no easy task, but it is one that we must undertake, not just for ourselves, but for the generations unborn. And in so doing, we can no doubt draw on the almighty assistance of our sovereign Creator, that unknowable essence of essences, whatever be the name by which we call Him. Thank you.